Hello, everybody. My name's Wesley Holdsworth. I'm a Grants and Programs Manager here at PRS Foundation, and I manage the International Showcase Fund. So we're going to talk today generally about what the International Showcase Fund is a little bit. I'll run through a brief presentation, and then I'll run through the form of how to approach it best for South by Southwest, being our most in-demand showcase. Competition is pretty fierce, so it's good to get the best application you possibly can in. So we'll go through that. During this webinar, there is a chat box on the YouTube channel. If you have any questions at any time, please do just throw in a question. We'll try and get through as many as we can. If your question is unanswered, or if you just want some further advice, you just want to get in touch about applying to South by Southwest, then please just email us at applications@prsfoundation.com, and I'll pop that in the chat now, along with all of the details on the upcoming deadlines and when you can expect to hear back on your application. So first of all, I'm sure most of you are aware of the International Showcase Fund, but the International Showcase Fund is managed by PRS Foundation in partnership with many different partner organisations. So we have Arts Council England, Department for Business and Trade, British Underground, Musicians Union, PPL, British Council, and all of the rest of the devolved nations arts councils, so Wales Arts International, Creative Scotland, and Arts Council Northern Ireland. So we all work together on this fund. It is specifically for international showcases. There's a list on the side there of potential events you could apply for. That is not exhaustive. It's literally any industry-facing showcase around the world or songwriting camp is eligible potentially for the International Showcase Fund. If you're unsure if an event is or is not eligible, again, just email us at applications@prsfoundation.com and we can get back to you. So in order to apply for the International Showcase Fund, you do need to be invited to an international event with a conference element. So it's geared towards music industry professionals rather than the general public. So you can only apply to us once you've received your invite from the showcase, or a songwriting camp, which is geared towards international collaboration and creative career progression. We do tend to give priority to songwriting camps that are off the back of events, international events, so things like South by Southwest Songs, or ADE often has songwriting camps, things like that. But again, do get in touch before you put an application in if you're unsure. In order to be eligible for this, you need to have a good profile in the UK, so featured in some national press, had some airplay, that kind of thing. It's really important when you apply to us that you have a list of meetings with the music industry delegates that you want to be meeting at this event. So publishers, labels, agents, that kind of thing. And it's good to have those confirmed when you're going to your chosen showcase. This is particularly important for South by Southwest, again, because it's a competitive fund. So having those specific meetings in place just makes your application look all that much stronger. And knowing exactly who you're going to speak to and why, what you're trying to get out of the event for your creative or career progression. And then you need to have a strong business case for attending the specific event. So again, it's like, why are you going? What do you have on the horizon? Do you have an album coming out? You're trying to pitch it in a new territory. You've got some buzz going on in that area of the world. So you're just going to follow up on some interest, that kind of thing. Just having a bit of an opportunity that is beyond the showcase itself. So you're thinking, what is the next step after this showcase is really important. And obviously you need to show that you're in need of funding support, not in a situation where other companies can and should cover the cost of your participation. So if you're signed to a major label, we can't support you. If it's a UK only major deal, which is rare, then you could possibly make a case for going overseas. As long as you're in a position to do new business in that area of the world, then you can make an argument for an application. But again, if you're unsure of your particular situation, do get in touch. So when you apply to us, the amount you can apply for is linked to how many people there are in the band or the performing act. So it's £1,500 for a solo songwriter, £2,500 for a duo, £3,500 for a trio, £4,500 for 4 artists. And then if there are any more artists than that, if you're an 8-piece band, unfortunately, the maximum you can apply for is still £4,500. And then no matter how much you're getting, there's also an extra 1,000 for your management. Again, South by Southwest being such a huge event, having management there on the ground to represent you is pretty key to a successful campaign out there. It can be quite intense and quite overwhelming. And if you're an artist trying to play multiple shows, that doesn't leave a lot of time for you to be doing any networking or talking about what you're doing. So having a team that's there is really, really important. And obviously, actually having a bit of a team around you is kind of a criteria of the fund, which is on the website, which will also link in the chat. So I'd definitely go and have a look at that. When you apply to us, we really want to be covering just your costs of getting there, really. So the international travel, your visas, accommodation, per diems, so you can feed yourself while you're out there, and then extra stuff on top of that if that's necessary. Those are the core things that we feel like we want to be supporting. There are obviously other things you can include, such as your time as a music creator, if you need that, if you're hiring session musicians, that kind of things. Paying for passes is eligible, all those sorts of things. So there is, again, a table on our website. Please look through that. But the main costs are international flights, accommodation, visas. The cost of going to South by Southwest is increasingly expensive. So our grant will not cover the full amount. So the maximum we can fund is 90% of the project costs, but in the case of South by Southwest, it's going to be much less than that. So make sure you're putting in your budget where the other sources of income are coming from. You need to submit a balanced budget, but we'll go through that when we go through the application form. So when you do apply, in order to make the strongest case in your application, you just need to make a clear case that we're what we call export ready, which again, there's more information on that on the guidance on the website. But that would include your career successes to date and why this showcase is important to expand your export potential. So being export ready is part of that, having a bit of a profile nationally already, having done maybe some tours, released some music, got your bit of a fan base growing. You should have some sort of team around you, management, label, publisher. You don't need all, but some sort of team that's helping to push your career forward. And then having a reason to go is the key. What is the reason for you choosing to go to South by Southwest? What are you hoping to get out of it? So that then speaks to the next point, which is about, we've already talked a bit about knowing who you intend to meet. Specific names are better than just the companies. So rather than say, we want to meet someone from Sony, well, who exactly from Sony have you been talking to, or who is interested? So having those specific names is going to make it all the more compelling. Thinking about how you're going to promote yourself when you're out there as well. As I mentioned, it's a huge event. It can be overwhelming, and it's really hard to stand out above the thousands of other bands that are there. So thinking about what you're going to do to make sure people know that you're attending in the run up to and while you're at the event. Stipulating any pre-existing relationships you might have in the country as well is important. So again, it's about naming who you've already been speaking to, what's going on over there that makes you want to go. You'll need to have concrete plans of what outcomes you expect from the showcase export event and how you will achieve these. So there is a question in the form that is specifically about, what are your free measurable outcomes we ask for, at least free. So it's just about thinking, what is it you want to go to? How are you going to make that happen? And then when you apply to us, you don't need to sort of overly sell yourself as you would do in maybe a press release when you're trying to promote something. We just want a plan. So you can be very concise, just be clear in what you're trying to say. You can bullet point answers if you want to. It's definitely best to approach the application as a business plan, not a pitch of an idea. Just, who, what, where, why, when is the most important things when you're applying to us. And that's relevant to any industry showcase you might be applying to us in the future as well. So when you are ready to apply, you can just create an account on our grants portal, FlexiGrant, select the International Showcase Fund from the available options. There is also a Welsh language version if you want to apply that way. For any showcase you're applying to us, we need at least 8 weeks before the showcase for you to submit. If it's later than that, we do have an exceptional circumstances process. Again, that's outlined on our website. We're not always able to make that happen, but we do try our best to accommodate late applications when they come in. We're not allowed to fund anything retrospectively, so you should be booking things before you've heard back if we are or aren't funding it. And just make sure that you research your budget. When people are assessing these applications, they are people who know how much things cost. They're people who are experts in international work. So make sure you're actually using realistic figures. And yeah, I think that's kind of enough of this sort of brief presentation thing. We'll go into the application now, and I'll just run through essentially what you need to do to apply to us. Okay, so when you've signed into FlexiGrant, once you've made an account, you'll be brought into this page. Down the bottom here, we have our funds that are open. Whenever funds are open, they'll be here. When they're closed, they're not here. You'll want the International Showcase Fund. As you can see, it says the deadline is 31st of the 12th, 24. That's just the general. It's open all year round. One of the only funds we have, along with the Early Career Promoter Fund, that doesn't have a deadline. You can just apply whenever you are invited to an international showcase. So for things like South by Southwest, we do have specific deadlines because the demand is so high. So those I've put in the chat earlier. So you will start your application. This is just some information. Make sure you're applying for the right thing to visit our website. You just need to say yes. And now we're into the actual application form. So you can save and come back to it as you want to. Just do, before you start, can't stress enough to please just look through the actual eligibility criteria and all the information on our website about what you can and can't apply for, and what the fund is specifically for, just to make sure that you're framing your application in a way that we can support. There's some questions on here that are marked with a red star. These are compulsory questions. And then once you've completed all the sections, you need to hit the submit application button, and then it will appear our side and we can start the assessment process. So the first section here, eligibility, this is a brief quiz that you just need to answer it. Again, it just sort of highlights some key parts of it. So have you read the guidance? Hopefully you have, yes. Do you have a registered address in the UK? You need to be based in the UK in order for us to be able to fund you. It doesn't matter where you are originally from. You just need to be based in the UK at the time of the application. And then is your application based on PRS Foundation covering 100% of your project costs? Obviously, we can't do that. You need to be putting in some of your own money, and you'll have to for South by Southwest because it's so expensive anyway. So that would be a yes. Sorry, a no. So yeah, when you put the wrong answer in, it comes up with that red box that you just saw. Have you received an official invite? So you'll need your official South by Southwest invite in order to apply to us. Unfortunately, we can't accept applications from you if you are waiting for an invite. You have to have your invite at the time of the application. And then if you've answered all those yes, that means you can save and move on to the next section. So the next section is just about you. This is just some information, mostly just for us and our own monitoring. So you just need to put down your name, as in your artist name, name of the main music creator. So if you're applying on behalf of an artist, if you're a manager, we still want you to give us the name of the artist that you're representing. And it's also worth noting that across all of our funds, you may apply on behalf of an artist, but the grant is always for the artist. So should that relationship break down for any reason, we would then transfer the grant to the artist. Grants are non-recoupable as they are a donation. So it's a gift to the artist. No, they are VAT exempt as well. So yeah, just worth bearing in mind when you're applying on behalf of somebody else. So we'll need that email for the artist as well. And then again, we want to know the manager's name and the year of the showcase you're applying to. Obviously, as it's open all year round, we receive applications for showcases around the world throughout the year, including now. So do be clear about what you're applying for, and the start date. This is where we ask about who you're signed to. Obviously, there are many subsidiaries of major labels. It can be quite confusing, lots of different types of deals. So generally, the rule is if you're signed to a major, we can't support you. If you're unsure, get in touch and we can talk about your specific situation. The next section is the ask some budget questions. It's a quirk of our grant system that this needs to be here before you've actually done your budget. So you might want to leave this section until you've actually completed the budget later on, and then come back and make sure that whatever you put in here does actually match the budget that you've submitted later on in the application. So the first one is how much you're applying for the actual performing artist. So if you're a free piece, then that would be £3,500. And then the manager amount, which would be up to £1,000, and then the total, which would be £4,500. And you just want to make sure that that does match the budget, otherwise that can cause us problems. And then you want to state your total project expenditure. So that's the total amount of money that you're spending. And then how many performing members are traveling in the activity. And we're asking just some questions about where you're based, because we like to know where people are based around the country, around 4 nations. One of the options is international, in case you may not have been born in the UK. You should know that this is not something that will be used to discriminate against anyone. It's more, as I said, for our own monitoring. We just like to track the movements of people. So yeah, don't feel like if you put something that's going to mean it's less likely to be supported. That's not the case. And then we come into some questions which are specific for our partnership with the British Council, which is not relevant to South by Southwest. So you don't actually need to answer this question about diasporic connections. You don't have to explain it. This is only for, there are a whole bunch of events generally in the global south that are perhaps not technically international industry showcases, but in those territories they are considered the international showcase event. So you can check those out on our website and see if any of those are relevant for you, but they're all across Africa and South America. But yeah, not relevant for South by Southwest, so you don't need to answer that. And then we just want to know more about, what kind of music creator you would say you are, link to your website, some social media links, your earnings from the last 12 months. Again, this is for our own reference. It's good for us to see, say we funded X amount of people for ISF before they got the grant, they were earning X amount, and then 2 years later, when they apply again, they're earning X amount. So it's just helpful for us to make sure what we're doing is working. And then asking what percentage you think that is from overseas live streaming revenue. Are you a member of PRS? Are you a member of PPL? Are you a member of Musicians Union? Have you received funding before? So all this stuff is really drop-down questions that you should know. So not too much trouble with that one. So you can go on to the next section. So here we ask for music examples. So essentially when you apply to us, your score, if you will, that's given by the assessors is split into 2. 50% of the score is purely based on just the music that you've given us, and then 50% is based on the plan. So really important to give us some really strong music examples. Sorry, I'm moving around the screen there, so I can't see anything. We really ask for, again, because we get so many applications, it's best not to just link to like an album or a playlist or something, like just link to a direct track, the track that you want the assessors to listen to that you think is your strongest. So we support high quality, outstanding new music. It's important that the music best reflects the project you want us to support. And yeah, as I say, it must take us to a link that can be streamed directly, not a download, anything like that. If you have an example of really good example of live footage, that would be really helpful, because obviously it's a live showcase. So many of the assessors will want to see what do you like live, what's your live show like. Anything that's sort of easily accessible. So, Spotify, YouTube Music, Deezer, SoundCloud, Bandcamp, that sort of thing is absolutely fine. Dropbox, you send it. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, don't use that. It has to be something that's easily accessible from anyone without account. If you don't have an Instagram account, you can't see it. And also that's not a particularly good way of sharing just a main track. So yeah, this is, choose your genre. We have a kind of not a particularly comprehensive list of genres to choose from in the first instance. That's generally because that's how we need to report back to our own funders and keep things streamlined. But the second one is much more comprehensive. And if your particular genre is not in this list, you can always email us at applications to tell us you need to add my genre. It's really helpful because this is when you're applying for general funds, this is kind of what we use to make sure we're sending the application to a relevant person who really knows about what you're doing. If you're applying to us and you're a grime artist, we want to send it to someone who works in grime, who knows what's going on. So do get in touch if that's the case for you. So one musical example, 2-minute musical examples, and then a live performance video if you have it. and you need to submit a recent web link to a review of your music or a short reference from an industry professional. So ideally, an industry professional that's not involved in the project you're applying for. So anyone who's got nice things to say about you, if you want to include that, that's fine. Or you can just link to some recent reviews of what you've been up to. Either is fine. You don't have to do both. And then here we're getting into the main questions of the application form at this point. So telling us about highlights of your music career so far. So this is where you're really setting out your stall as to why you're export ready, what you've been doing in the UK. So details of the current profile and success in the UK, track record in playing live, level of industry interest, radio plays, popularity on social media, all that sort of thing. Around that should be clear that popularity on social media is only relevant if that's relevant to you. If that's what you're doing and how you're reaching an audience, that's fine. But if that's not your main priority, if you're doing it in other ways, that's fine too. You just need to specify how you're reaching people. That's what we're looking for here, really. So yeah, this is where you kind of set out your stall as to why you're export ready and what's going on. And we move on to the next section. So here we're asking to tell us about the demand of your music outside of the UK. So I do think because South by Southwest, I mean, I realize I keep repeating myself, because it's so in demand and it's such a large event, it's really important that your international demand is relevant to the US or the people that you're going to meet. So this should, when we ask a bit later about who you're going to meet, this should kind of link into that. Like, if you're telling us that the demand for your music is in place X, and this is the type of people that are reaching out to us, then that should be reflected in why you're going to South by Southwest. So it shouldn't be too general. Again, it should be specific to why this opportunity is the right time for you. And then there's another link here to go to a bit more further information about Export Ready. Now we ask for who's in your team. So for this is not your band or people that you play with or collaborators. This is specifically team, as in managers, agents, lawyers, publishers, record labels, that sort of thing. So just fill in that. Here you'll need to upload your official invite. Again, if you don't have that yet, unfortunately, you can't apply. We're asking here if you understand the visa requirements for attending the showcase. So you just need to say, yes, I understand. No, I don't understand. And then we ask, there's some links as well, sorry, to relevant places to give you more information if you need that. Then we ask here which visa you have. For some reason, many people don't seem to answer this. They just put NA or something. Really, really important that you tell us exactly what visa you have and what you are, or if you are applying for it. Like, if you don't specify this, it is a reason for the panel to question whether it should be funded over something that is much clearer. So please do make sure that you do that. And it has a lot to do with, if you don't have a full work visa, you can't play unofficial shows or tour around South by Southwest. So if you've said in your application that you're doing that, but you haven't specified what visa you've got, that leaves us unsure if we should or shouldn't fund it. So just make sure that you answer that, and you do have the correct visa. Again, the question above has lots of links on how to find all that sort of information. Again, if you're unsure, email us at applications@prsfoundation.com. This is next another British Council question, as it's outlined here, where it says British Council supported event. So this cultural exchange question you don't need to answer for South by Southwest. And again, cultural exchange will impact your future music work. You don't need to answer that either. Now you've come down to this with some red stuff. This is where you choose whether you're applying for an international showcase performance or an international songwriting camp. So you are applying as an artist band, and you are applying in real life international showcase. And then it opens up all the questions that are relevant to that. So it asks about insurance, if you've done a risk assessment and that sort of thing. Again, there are links to follow up and to read more about that information. And here we have our 3 measurable outcomes. So please explain your reason for attending the showcase, including 3 measurable outcomes that you expect. Again, be as specific as you can. We want to sign to X, or we're hoping to get support tour across the US with X. We've been talking to agent person about this. Whatever it is that you're doing, try and be as specific as you can, and by measurable, something that we can look to. Say your application is successful. you'll get 80% of the grant up front and then 20% of the grant when you give us an evaluation at the end. And part of that evaluation is measuring, well, how well did you do against these three measurable outcomes. So think about how you would answer that question in the future. So just focusing on what your aims are and how you'll achieve them and why this is the best event for you to achieve those aims. And then please provide details of unconfirmed or confirmed performances. Yeah, just let us know which shows you're playing at South by Southwest, what you've been confirmed for, and then anything that you're thinking about approaching or have approached that are currently unconfirmed, you can include those as well. Here we're asking for you to give us a little bit of information about what you're going to be doing to market yourself and promote yourself while you're out there leading up to and while you're out at South by Southwest. So just talking about what's going on there. You might be pushing a lot of stuff on radio. You might be doing some focused ads, whatever it is. We talk about that in that section. As you can see here that the word count is 250 max. That's not a target. As I mentioned, you can be really concise. Bullet points are fine. As long as all the detail is there and you've been specific, then it's fine. The next question is a really key question in the application and something that assessors tend to spend quite a bit of time on. So please list 5 key contacts. It doesn't have to be 5. It could be 10 if you have 10, but 5 minimum, including the name, company, and contact details that you expect to meet with at the showcase. So you should only be listing international contacts here to help justify why you're going to that showcase. So not anyone that you could meet here in the UK. If you include any UK-based contacts, you need to be really clear about why it's imperative that you meet them at South by Southwest and how they're going to help you achieve your goals. I'd suggest not including people who work at South by Southwest. It should be external industry that you're going to meet. So yeah, really important part to think about. And then if you're applying for your manager's travel, just a bit of info about the manager, who they are, and a little bit of information about what they're going to do, what their plan is, to help you maximize your impact at the showcase. I would say again, just to really drive it home, this key contacts question where we've asked you to specify who you're meeting, that should definitely link in with this 3 measurable outcomes question. So yeah, if anything you're talking about, you want to get something done at South by Southwest, I would imagine that some of these people in this key contacts will be the people helping you get that done. So yeah, just make sure those two things speak to each other. It's kind of like, if you're saying in your measurable outcomes that you want to get a publishing deal, you want to find a record label, and then in this list of key contacts there are no record labels and no publishers, then that's a question the panel can ask. So just make sure that they're linked. Here we just want to know if you're receiving any other funding from other organizations. Like there's lots of kind of support from local councils in the north at the moment. So if you're getting support from any of those, please include those there. Other funding organizations might be supporting you, anything like that, please include it all up here, just to let us know the kind of support that you're getting. And then here's the budget. So you don't have to answer every single one of these. If it's not relevant to what you're doing, you can leave it blank. But say your travel is going to be £5,000, and then you just say, yes, I would like PRS Foundation to support that. And then you could say, maybe I want £1,000 for marketing, but PRS Foundation aren't funding that. I just want us, you just want us to fund that amount. And then, so you can fill all that out as you go through the application. Always good here again, even if you're not asking us to pay for the visas, it's another good opportunity for you to let us know which ones you've got. And then you'll see down here, it will give us the total of what we've just put in on the expenditure. So that's £6,000 at the moment. So then down here, you have your income. So you can use income from previous ticket sales, merchandise sales, whatever that is, or recording income. The amount you're asking us from needs to go in here. So say the maximum you can apply to us is £4,500. Then you can see down here, this has come up because it doesn't balance. You've got a discrepancy of 1,500. You've told us that it costs £6,000. we can fund you £4,500, so you need to find £1,500 to make it balance. And you could say that's going to come from mine management. And then that will balance out and the red box will disappear. So that's how you essentially need to do that. I think there's some guidance notes here. Maybe I'll pop a link on there to a video on how to do that as well. But again, any problems, any questions, email us at applications@prsfoundation.com. And then there's this question here. Do you have any additional access requirements that may mean PRS Foundation should offer financial support above and beyond the ISF request amount? In the instance that you need this kind of support, this does not come out of the general amount of money, so no one's penalised and has to get less of a grant. So you just say yes, and then you can just explain in here what that access support is. This will not be seen by any external advisors or this question here. This is purely for PRS Foundation staff only. And then should your application be successful, we'll then have a discussion with you about the extra costs and how we can potentially meet them and work together to make sure that you can access the International Showcase. Some international showcases as well are not particularly accessible. So it's great to know if you are going, so we can be on hand to help as much as we can. Really want to ensure that everyone is able to access these kinds of opportunities. So again, any questions, applications@prsfoundation.com. And then here we have our monitoring section. Again, nobody sees this. It's only for PRS Foundation staff. It's all about who you are, age, ethnicity, predicted characteristics, questions. As I mentioned, this won't be seen by assessors, so this has absolutely nothing to do with the decision-making process. But it really helps us understand where our money is going across the board. We have this on all of our grants, so we can see what kind of people we're missing, who we are and aren't funding, and make decisions about how we shape our grant programs going forward. So it's really helpful for us if you do fill this out. Yeah. And then once you've done that, you are complete. And that is essentially all of the application done. So I think we'll leave this up for a minute. And then if you have any questions, please, again, do just throw them in the chat and someone's on hand to answer them. And yeah, best of luck with your application.